When the world sleeps, shadows awaken. This is where the forgotten tales breathe again. Welcome to Dark Night Story. The Vampire of Highgate Cemetery. In the heart of North London lies Highgate Cemetery, one of the most atmospheric and unsettling graveyards in the world. By day, it is a Gothic masterpiece with ivy-covered tombs, crumbling mausoleums, and statues of angels that seem to watch your every move. But by night, the silence thickens and shadows stretch long among the gravestones. And in the early 1970s, this cemetery became the stage for one of Britain's most infamous paranormal mysteries. A tale of a figure so terrifying, so inexplicable, that newspapers called it the Vampire of Highgate. Was it hysteria, a hoax, or something much darker that still lingers in the crypts of Highgate? Highgate Cemetery was built in 1839, intended to be a beautiful resting place for London's dead. But with time, the cemetery fell into neglect. By the 1960s, it was a place of decay. Overgrown pathways, vandalized tombs, and forgotten graves. The Gothic architecture, towering gates, catacombs carved into the hillside, rows of ornate mausoleums gave it an aura straight out of a horror film. Teenagers dared each other to sneak in after dark. Occult groups held rituals in secret corners, and ghost hunters whispered of strange apparitions. It was the perfect breeding ground for legends. But in 1969, those whispers took a terrifying turn. Local residents began to report something strange. They spoke of a tall, dark figure gliding silently through the graves. Some described it as over 7 feet tall, with a long cloak and blazing red eyes that glowed in the dark. Others said they felt an overwhelming sense of dread in its presence, as though life itself was being drained from the air. Animals were found dead near the cemetery walls, often mutilated in bizarre ways. The most chilling stories came from those who claimed the entity didn't just linger in the cemetery, it followed them. A woman walking home late at night said she was suddenly paralyzed by fear as the figure appeared in front of her, only to vanish in seconds. Another man swore he saw it staring at him through his bedroom window, though his flat was several stories above ground. In March 1970, the legend of the Highgate Vampire exploded into the press. The Hampstead and Highgate Express published interviews with locals who described encounters with a ghostly apparition. Some called it a phantom. Others whispered the word vampire. Soon, ghost hunters, thrill seekers, and occultists flooded the cemetery, desperate to catch a glimpse of the creature. The media circus only added fuel to the fire. Reporters prowled the cemetery at night. Television crews filmed live specials. Highgate was no longer just a cemetery. It was the epicenter of a supernatural panic. Two figures emerged at the center of the hysteria: David Farrant and Sean Manchester. David Farrant, a self-proclaimed occultist, claimed to have seen the figure on Christmas Eve 1969. He described it as a gray form with hypnotic red eyes. He wrote to newspapers warning that something unholy lurked in Highgate. Sean Manchester, on the other hand, declared it was a vampire in the truest sense, an ancient being, perhaps a Romanian nobleman transported to London in a coffin centuries earlier. Manchester even claimed he would lead an exorcism to destroy the creature. The rivalry between the two men escalated, with each accusing the other of exaggeration, but their feud only kept the story alive.
And as rumors spread, the legend of the Highgate vampire grew. On the night of March 13, 1970, hundreds of people stormed the gates of Highgate Cemetery. Armed with stakes, crucifixes, and cameras, they searched the crypts and tombs for the vampire. Witnesses later described the chaos, broken locks, vandalized graves, and mobs of people running through the cemetery with torches. Some swore they saw the figure vanish into the catacombs. Others claimed to hear voices calling from the darkness. But no vampire was ever captured. What they left behind was destruction, open coffins, bones disturbed, and a cemetery desecrated. Despite the chaos, reports of strange happenings continued. Several people swore they were attacked by an unseen force near the cemetery. A motorist driving past claimed a dark figure materialized in front of his car, causing him to swerve off the road. Others described dreams of a gaunt, pale man with piercing eyes who seemed to drain their energy each night. Whether it was suggestion, hysteria, or something paranormal, the Highgate vampire was becoming more than just a story. It was becoming an obsession. Farrant and Manchester continued their feud for decades. Farrant was arrested in 1974 after being caught in the cemetery carrying a wooden stake. He was accused of practicing black magic. Manchester, meanwhile, continued to insist the vampire was real and that he had personally driven a stake through its heart in a secret ritual. The truth? No evidence was ever produced. No body, no proof. Just endless rumors, witness statements, and two rival vampire hunters locked in a battle for notoriety. Today, Highgate Cemetery is carefully preserved, its Gothic beauty restored, but the legend of the Highgate vampire has never died. Visitors still report strange feelings of being watched. Tour guides tell hushed stories of glowing eyes seen among the tombs. Paranormal investigators continued to seek proof of what stalked the cemetery in the 1970s. Skeptics dismiss it all as mass hysteria, fueled by a sensationalist press and two eccentric showmen. But believers say something truly ancient and sinister walked among the graves, and perhaps still does. Whether phantom, vampire, or urban legend, the Highgate mystery endures. And in the silent heart of the cemetery, when the fog rolls thick and the air turns cold, who can say what might be waiting in the shadows? So the question remains, was the Highgate vampire a product of hysteria, a hoax carried too far, or a true creature of the night lurking in London's most haunted graveyard? Perhaps the dead in Highgate never truly rest, and perhaps some shadows are better left undisturbed.
St. Louis Cemetery Number 1, New Orleans. The Voodoo Queen's Curse. In the heart of New Orleans lies a place where the living dare not linger after dark. St. Louis Cemetery Number 1. A labyrinth of crumbling tombs, stone angels, and mausoleums that lean beneath the southern sun. It is the city's oldest cemetery, a place of history and of haunting. Here rests one of the most powerful and feared women in American folklore, Marie Laveau, the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. Her name still whispers through the streets, her magic said to linger long after death. But with her memory comes a warning. For those who disturb her grave are said to fall victim to the Voodoo Queen's curse. New Orleans is unlike any other city in America, a city of music, masks, and mystery, where Catholic saints share altars with voodoo spirits, and the line between life and death is blurred. In the early 19th century, amid French Creole culture and African traditions, voodoo flourished. It was a faith born of resilience, blending ancestral spirits with Catholic saints, charms, rituals, and healing practices. And at the center of it all stood one woman, Marie Laveau. Born in 1801, she was a free woman of color who rose to power not with wealth, but with influence. She was a hairdresser to New Orleans' elite, hearing their secrets, knowing their sins. And through whispers, charms, and rituals, she became the most feared and respected voodoo priestess the city had ever known. Marie Laveau's reign had its share of controversy, of course, but not many people dared to question her. Many stories said that when she had enemies, Marie would make moves in the shadows, and their enemies would disappear. Marie Laveau ruled the city not with violence, but with mystery. By day, she was seen helping the sick, tending to the poor, and nursing the condemned before execution. By night, she was said to lead ceremonies deep in the bayous and on the shores of Lake Pontchartrain, where drums thundered and candles burned against the darkness. Politicians, criminals, and lovers all sought her aid. Some claimed she could summon spirits, bend fate, even control life and death itself. Her legend grew with each whispered tale. Love potions that never failed, enemies who suddenly fell ill, and fortunes told with uncanny accuracy. To some, she was a healer and protector. To others, a sorceress cloaked in shadows. In 1881, Marie Laveau died. Thousands crowded the streets to mourn her, yet rumors spread that she never truly left. Some swore they saw her walking through the French Quarter after her burial, smiling that knowing smile. Others claimed she appeared in St. Louis Cemetery No. 1, tending to graves by candlelight. Even in death, her power was not gone. It had only changed form. Marie Laveau's tomb in St. Louis Cemetery No. 1 became one of the most visited in America. Her resting place is a simple, above-ground tomb of whitewashed brick, yet it draws thousands each year. For decades, visitors would mark 3 X's on the stone, whispering a wish, and leaving offerings, beads, coins, liquor, candles. If the Queen favored your request, your wish would be granted. But if she was angered, misfortune would follow. Caretakers of the cemetery tell of people fainting near her grave, cameras malfunctioning, and sudden chills sweeping over the tomb even on the hottest day Louisiana.
But among the offerings and prayers lies something darker, the curse of the Voodoo Queen. Those who deface or disrespect her tomb are said to suffer tragedy, strange accidents, illnesses, even death. One story tells of a tourist who mocked the rituals, kicking over offerings at her grave. Days later, he died in a car crash under mysterious circumstances. Another tale describes a woman who stole trinkets left on the tomb, only to be plagued by night terrors until she returned them. To many, these are coincidences. To believers, they are proof that Marie Laveau's spirit still guards her resting place, punishing those who forget to show respect. Visitors have reported seeing her figure wandering the cemetery, dressed in a tignon, the bright headscarf she was known for in life. She is often seen near her tomb, watching silently before fading into the shadows. Others hear footsteps on the gravel when no one is there, or the sound of faint chanting carried on the wind. Some even claim to feel a hand brush their shoulder, gentle yet cold, as they pass her tomb. Even the cemetery staff tread carefully after dark, for they say the Voodoo Queen does not like to be disturbed. The Voodoo Queen's legend has grown far beyond New Orleans. She has been immortalized in books, films, and television, often as both healer and sorceress. Yet beneath the fiction lies a truth. She was a woman of power in a world that offered her little, and she carved her influence through faith, fear, and respect. Her curse, whether real or imagined, serves as a reminder of her presence. Nearly 150 years after her death, people still flock to her tomb, still leave offerings, still whisper wishes in the hope that the Queen will hear. And many believe she does, because in New Orleans, the dead are never truly gone. So the next time you walk through the crumbling aisles of St. Louis Cemetery No. 1, remember this: the Voodoo Queen may be resting, but she is never silent. Be respectful, whisper your wish, leave your offering, and never mock her name. For in New Orleans, they say Marie Laveau always keeps her promises, and her curse waits for those who forget.
The Ghost of Resurrection Mary. Along Archer Avenue, on the outskirts of Chicago, drivers whisper about a ghostly figure who appears on lonely nights. A young woman dressed in white, waving for a ride. They call her Resurrection Mary. For nearly a century, her spirit has haunted the road leading to Resurrection Cemetery, stepping into cars and vanishing before she ever reaches her destination. Is she a restless soul, a tragic memory, or something far darker? This is the legend of Resurrection Mary, Chicago's most famous ghost. Resurrection Cemetery lies in Justice, Illinois, a quiet suburb southwest of Chicago. Founded in 1904, it became one of the largest Catholic cemeteries in the region, with over 150,000 burials. At night, the cemetery transforms into something else entirely. Stone angels loom in the moonlight, rows of crosses fade into shadow, and the silence becomes heavy, suffocating. It is here, and on the stretch of Archer Avenue that runs alongside, where Resurrection Mary makes her presence known. The legend began in the 1930s. Drivers reported picking up a young woman late at night along Archer Avenue. She was described the same way each time: blonde hair, blue eyes, a white dress, and a strange, cold silence. She asked for a ride, usually toward the ballroom or back home. She never spoke much, and then, just before reaching Resurrection Cemetery, she would vanish from the seat beside them. By the 1940s, the stories had spread through Chicago. Locals called her Resurrection Mary. To understand the legend, we return to the age of dance halls and swing bands. One version of the story tells of a young woman who spent the night dancing at the O. Henry Ballroom, a popular venue along Archer Avenue. After an argument with her date, she left the hall in anger, walking alone into the cold night. On her way home, she was struck and killed by a passing car. Her parents buried her in Resurrection Cemetery, but her spirit never found peace. Ever since, drivers leaving the ballroom have claimed to see her walking along the road, still trying to make it home. One of the most famous sightings took place in the 1970s. A man named Jerry Paluntz, a Chicago native, claimed he met a beautiful young woman at a dance hall near Archer Avenue. He danced with her, bought her drinks, and even kissed her goodnight. She asked him to drive her home,
giving vague directions down Archer Road. When they passed the gates of Resurrection Cemetery, she suddenly told him to stop. Before Jerry could react, she vanished from the seat beside him. Convinced he had been with a ghost, he later described her appearance exactly as others had: blonde, blue-eyed, and dressed in white. The story made newspapers, cementing Resurrection Mary as Chicago legend.
In 1976, an incident shocked the city. Police were called to Resurrection Cemetery after reports of a girl trapped inside the gates, clutching the iron bars. When officers arrived, no one was there, but 2 bars of the cemetery gate were scorched and bent outward, as if by powerful hands. To believers, it was proof that Mary herself had tried to escape the cemetery, leaving behind physical evidence of her restless soul. The burned bars remain one of the most chilling reminders of her presence. Who was Resurrection Mary? Some believe she was a young Polish-American girl killed in a car accident in the 1930s. Others link her to Mary Bregovy, a young woman who died in a car crash in 1934 and was buried in Resurrection Cemetery. Skeptics argue she is simply an urban legend, a tale of the vanishing hitchhiker retold with a Chicago twist, but the consistency of the sightings, from truck drivers to police officers, from the 1930s to the present, keeps her story alive. Even today, Archer Avenue is known as one of Chicago's most haunted roads. Drivers report seeing a girl in white walking along the shoulder late at night. Some stop to offer help, only for her to disappear. Others catch a fleeting glimpse in their headlights, vanishing into thin air. Bars and dance halls near Archer Avenue still share stories of men who danced with a mysterious blonde woman, only to lose her before the night was over. For nearly a century, Mary refuses to rest. Why does Resurrection Mary walk Archer Avenue? Some say she is searching for her way home, replaying the tragic night she died. Others believe she is warning drivers, reminding them of the dangers of drinking, fighting, and reckless driving. But there is also a darker theory, that Mary was not simply a victim of an accident, but of something more sinister, a murder, a betrayal, or a violent act that left her spirit restless. Whatever the truth, her presence suggests a soul caught between worlds, forever bound to the place of her death. So the next time you drive Archer Avenue late at night, keep your eyes on the side of the road. If you see a young woman in white, do not be afraid, but do not ignore her either. She may ask for a ride, she may only walk silently in the dark, or she may vanish before your eyes. Chicago has many ghosts, but none more famous than Resurrection Mary. The girl who dances, the girl who walks, the girl who never made it home.
Greyfriars Kirkyard, Edinburgh, the Mackenzie Poltergeist. Deep in the heart of Edinburgh lies Greyfriars Kirkyard, a cemetery so old and so haunted that locals refuse to walk through it after nightfall. It is here, among moss-covered stones and the crumbling tombs of Scotland's dead, that something restless stirs, a spirit so violent, so unrelenting, that it has earned a name whispered in fear, the Mackenzie Poltergeist. This is not just a ghost story. It is a tale of history, cruelty, and a haunting that continues to terrorize visitors to this day. Greyfriars Kirkyard was established in the late 1500s. With its leaning gravestones, Gothic mausoleums, and narrow passageways, it looks like something out of a nightmare. It is famous for two things: the loyalty of Greyfriars Bobby, the dog who guarded his master's grave,
and the darkness that hangs over the section known as the Covenanters' Prison. Here, the dead do not rest easily, and one name above all others haunts these grounds: George Mackenzie. Sir George Mackenzie was a 17th century lawyer, born into privilege and power. He rose to become Lord Advocate of Scotland, serving King Charles II. But Mackenzie was ruthless. During the 1670s, he earned the nickname Bloody Mackenzie for his merciless persecution of the Scottish Covenanters, a Presbyterian movement resisting the king's control of their faith. Mackenzie imprisoned hundreds of Covenanters in a section of Greyfriars Kirkyard. Conditions were horrific. The prisoners were starved, beaten, and left to freeze in the bitter Scottish winter. Many died where they lay, their bodies discarded without ceremony. To the Covenanters, Mackenzie was not a man, but a monster. Mackenzie himself died in 1691. Ironically, he was buried in the very kirkyard where so many of his victims suffered. His grand black mausoleum still stands today, a looming stone tomb just yards away from the Covenanters' prison. Locals say it was a cruel twist of fate, that Mackenzie was forced to share the earth with those he had tormented. But in death, his cruelty did not end. Some say it only began. For centuries, Mackenzie's tomb stood silently. Then in 1998, a homeless man broke into the mausoleum seeking shelter. What happened inside remains unclear. Some say he disturbed the bones. Others say he fell into a hidden crypt surrounded by coffins. But what is certain is this: the man fled in terror, screaming into the night. From that moment on, strange things began to happen in Greyfriars Kirkyard. Visitors reported being shoved, scratched, even choked by unseen hands. Cold winds howled through sealed vaults, and the name Mackenzie once again struck fear into Edinburgh.
Unlike many ghost stories, the Mackenzie poltergeist comes with evidence. Since the late 1990s, more than 400 people have reported physical attacks within the Covenanters' prison and near Mackenzie's tomb. Witnesses describe sudden bruises and scratches appearing on their skin, fainting spells and violent nausea, an overwhelming sense of dread as though something was watching. Tour guides leading ghost walks through Greyfriars often ended tours early after guests collapsed or screamed in terror. Even skeptics admit something strange lingers here. The epicenter of the activity is Mackenzie's tomb, known as the Black Mausoleum. Visitors who dare to approach describe a cold, oppressive energy. The air feels heavier, thicker. Some say the tomb hums with a low vibration, like a growl in the stone. Legend says that Mackenzie's spirit, furious at being disturbed, prowls the prison and the kirkyard, still tormenting the living as he once tormented the Covenanters. The haunting is so notorious that the City of Edinburgh Council temporarily locked the Covenanters' prison to the public, hoping to contain whatever force had been unleashed. Of course, skeptics offer explanations. They claim the injuries are psychosomatic, scratches caused by people clawing themselves in panic. The fainting, they say, comes from fear or suggestion, fueled by the ghost tours that dramatize the legend. But even skeptics admit the sheer volume of reports is unusual. Police officers, priests, and hardened tourists have all left the kirkyard shaken. And what about the man who broke into the tomb in 1998? He never returned. Some say he was never the same again. Local lore suggests Mackenzie's spirit is cursed, bound to the kirkyard, never allowed peace because of the horrors he inflicted in life. Others whisper that the Covenanters themselves cursed him,
trapping his soul to suffer for eternity. Whatever the cause, the Mackenzie poltergeist is not a harmless ghost. It is violent, angry, and relentless. Perhaps George Mackenzie continues his persecution even from beyond the grave. So if you ever walked through Greyfriars Kirkyard, tread carefully, stay near the paths, avoid the locked gates of the Covenanters' prison, and never, under any circumstance, touch the Black Mausoleum. The Mackenzie poltergeist is more than just a story. It is a living legend of Edinburgh, a reminder that the past does not always stay buried. And as long as his tomb stands, Bloody Mackenzie will never rest.